What's up, college football addicts? Recently, ESPN decided to throw a grenade into the ACC versus FSU case. They filed a statement, an answer against FSU, arguing that the ACC was correct in the regard that the ESPN media contract, the grant of rights, and other contracts were trade secrets. The biggest shocker of them all was ESPN saying it was possible that FSU's counsel may have committed a felony by sharing those trade secrets. Before we get all the way into the weeds on this, take a moment and hit that subscribe button. We have another conference realignment video dropping very soon where we're going to be covering some of the stuff that's under wraps right now with North Carolina, Clemson, and Miami, what they're up to. You guys are not going to want to miss that, so hit subscribe now. I know I've said it before, but I'm not an attorney. I barely even qualify as a coherent, functioning adult, but let's move forward, all of that withstanding. Now, as for what ESPN said, the first point that I want to make here is I want you to think less about what ESPN said and think more about what they didn't say. Because I think what ESPN is doing is really a sleight of hand. I think they're smacking the table with one hand while their other hand is taking your watch off. Think about it. They argued purely in defense of their media contracts, but they didn't say anything about any of the other arguments that the ACC made. In fact, whether these contracts are sealed or not will have absolutely no bearing on the outcome of this case. In reading their full filing, I'd even argue that ESPN intentionally avoided weighing in to support any of the legal arguments either FSU or the ACC made, which tells you they're playing Switzerland in all of this. They are staying neutral. If this was the SEC in court, I'm not so sure we would have seen the same response from ESPN. And my belief on all of this is that you are watching a real dog and pony show unfold. ESPN is trying to walk a tightrope, pretending that they're on the side of the ACC, who they have an agreement with. But the only problem with that is they have already actively partnered with Fox and the Big 10. So long story short, the big old cat is more or less already out of the bag. And he's massive. It's Garfield, and he's been in that bag eating lasagna, getting fat for years and years now. Let me be perfectly clear about a couple of things. Number one, everyone now knows that ESPN has the power to unilaterally end the ACC, and they get to make that choice in 2025. Number two, ESPN is trying to walk a tightrope, pretending that they care about the ACC while at the same time knowing that the ACC is absolutely screwed. Why do they have to do this? Well, again, they're in a contract with them. They're in an agreement with them, and there are very likely stipulations within that agreement that they will defend them when at all necessary. Number three, ESPN is actively planning on raiding the ACC. The moment that Florida State is out by picking up the North Carolina and Virginia and possibly other schools within that conference. So as far as that tightrope goes, let's dive in. Let's talk about this tightrope ESPN has found itself on. ESPN is having to ask itself, how do we, one, pretend to care about the ACC to avoid getting sued by them for dereliction of duty or getting dragged into the case versus FSU, all while at the same time working actively with Fox and the Big 10 to strong-arm all of college football to benefit the only college football asset that they actually care about, which is the SEC. They're also having to balance and juggle facilitating and negotiating with FSU, which will allow a few other teams to potentially escape the ACC. All the while getting teams that they want in the SEC. All while knowing that as soon as these teams escape, they're going to force the remaining ACC teams into accepting pennies on the dollar or dissolving the conference altogether, so that there's one more spot available for the SEC. So let me break that down and repeat it for those of you in the back. ESPN is here to make money. They have plans to extract the valuable assets from the ACC and strong-arm the rest of the conference into either accepting pennies on the dollar or dissolving altogether. All while saying whatever it is they need to say to avoid being sued. Some other thoughts I have on this and some other things that I certainly want to talk about and dive into, maybe on other channels, maybe on other videos, is the actual alleged accusation or the alleged maybe possible accusation of, did Florida State possibly commit a felony by doing this? I've seen several attorneys laugh at the fact that they would allude to a possible felony, a criminal matter within this civil case, especially when that criminal matter, that felony of divulging company secrets, falls under the state laws in the state of Florida, the sunshine laws, the information that must be put out there. Florida State was the one that responded to the ACC's original lawsuit in filing their lawsuit. The idea that they broke any kind of rules in this is absolutely hilarious. But again, it's not necessarily about what ESPN said. They have a dog in this fight. In fact, they have two dogs in this fight. One that they'd like to continue to make money on and partner with, potentially, in Florida State. And the other that they would absolutely rob blind to benefit the only thing that they truly care about, and that is the SEC. They don't want to take a stance. They don't want to support the ACC too much. Their only speculation, their only answer was, again, on what was asked about the contract and whether or not there were trade secrets there. How will North Carolina rule on this? How will Florida rule on this? Will some documents come to light? Will some things come to light that ESPN and the ACC certainly do not want? Don't kid yourself for a minute in thinking that the ACC or ESPN would be okay with these documents getting out. The more we talk about this, the more that we go over this, the more that we cover this from any angle, it is becoming so apparent that ESPN and the ACC are scared to death of this thing going to court. And I don't know if Florida State has skeletons in their closet. I don't know if there's a smoking gun in Florida State's closet right now that they're scared to death of. I truly just don't know. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that ESPN and the ACC don't want to go to court. They don't want this information out. They're scared to death of this not being filed under cloak and dagger. They want this absolutely hidden from the public's eyes, and they don't want others to know about what they've got and what they've had going on. If there's anything I'm confident about, it is that this will be settled. And I think we all know that Florida State will be soon out of the ACC, and then it's what the avalanche looks like after that. How many other teams are going to follow? The Virginias, the North Carolinas, the Miamis, and others. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Love to hear from you. If you're an attorney, you have some thoughts on this, feel free to reach out to me on social media. It's TJ_Pittenger, or you can hit me in the comments here. My email is available here on the YouTube channel as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're going to talk about Clemson, UNC, Miami in an upcoming video soon. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to College Football Addiction.